Hey guys, it's me, Rich. I want to talk about America for a minute. Who we actually are as a country. I'm not talking about the lunatic left in our country because I don't believe the modern progressive movement reflects what America is at its core. And let's be honest, it's not who we are. Not even close. A shocking truth sits at the center of America's identity, and most people have never stopped to think about it. In this video, you'll discover how an ancient act of civil disobedience helped shape the moral foundation of Western civilization, why America inherited that tradition, and what happens when a nation loses the courage to stand up for what's right. The answer isn't what most people think it is. And if you stick with me to the end, you'll understand why two people can look at the exact same event and reach completely different conclusions about right and wrong. However, the real story begins thousands of years ago in ancient Egypt. Let's get into it. All right, guys, welcome back to RPW Media. If you're new, like, subscribe, and comment, and thank you, and welcome. Okay, I'm talking about something deeper, something baked into the DNA of every American baby born in this country to American citizens, not the kids dropped here by parents who snuck across the border, real red-blooded Americans whose families have roots here no matter where they came from in the world. Now, let me explain this with a story. It's one of my favorites from the Bible, actually, and it comes from Exodus. So there's this Egyptian Pharaoh, this king, a potentate, if you will, and he orders a group of midwives to kill every newborn Jewish baby. That's brutal stuff. He thought the Jewish population was getting too big. Now, here's the thing. He almost certainly picked non-Jewish midwives to do this because no Jewish midwife would ever turn around and murder her own people. The Pharaoh knew this. And if you know the story, you already know what happens. These midwives, against all odds, refuse. They don't kill a single baby, not one. So the Pharaoh, he has them hauled in front of him and he demands the answer to, why didn't you follow my orders? And the answer is the whole point of this story. It's something that, frankly, got written into the American character centuries later. The Bible doesn't say they spared the babies because they couldn't stomach the violence. It doesn't say the midwives did this out of love for God either. What it says is that they did it because they feared God. Now, stick with me here because this is where it gets interesting. Fear of God, when that God is the moral God of the Old Testament, the God of the Ten Commandments, the God who commanded love your neighbor as yourself, is necessary to make a society of moral individuals. Of course, there are moral atheists, just as there were moral pagans and moral individuals in even the worst of cultures. But you cannot build a good world with a handful of individuals who happen to be good people. You need a universal moral code from a universal God who is the source of that moral code, and this God must judge all people accordingly. Consequently, fear of God is as inevitable as it is necessary. If God judges how moral we are, of course, there will be fear of him, just as there is fear of a human judge. Conversely, if God does not judge people, there is no reason to fear him. Now, here's the wild part. If was fear of God that actually freed the midwives from the fear of the Egyptian tyrant standing right in front of them. People miss this constantly. Fear of God isn't a cage, it's a release valve. A lot of folks hear fear of God and they think it sounds heavy, oppressive even. But it's the opposite. It's liberating. It frees you from being paralyzed by fear of powerful, evil people. Now, people today can't even fathom it, most people. That fear of God, what it really is. That fear is exactly what gave those midwives the courage to pull off what might be the first recorded act of civil disobedience in human history. And it's no coincidence that throughout history, a huge number of dissidents standing up to totalitarian regimes have been believers. America itself was built on a Judeo-Christian foundation, and that fear of God is what gave Americans the backbone to challenge their own leaders whenever those leaders crossed the line into injustice. Now, these days, we're split on this, and I think it comes down to people redefining morality to fit whatever political fight is in front of them. Like, take immigration. When the government sends agents to arrest and deport violent, criminal, illegal aliens who came here illegally and hurt American citizens, that is a moral act, straightforward. But somehow the conversation gets flipped, and now the violent offender is the victim just someone caught up in a brutal system of agents trying to remove people who only want a better life. And here's the problem. A lot of good, decent Americans don't know how to push back on that argument anymore. Why? Because God has been stripped out of daily life for millions of people. They've lost the framework that tells you when it's actually moral to challenge your leaders and when you're just rationalizing. Now, once you start swapping who the good guys and the bad guys are, depending on which side benefits, you've broken something fundamental. And at this point, people on opposite sides of this aren't even arguing from the same moral universe anymore. And look, standing up to tyrants takes guts. Even a lot of Christians today fear angering the wrong people more than they fear God. Courage might be the rarest virtue there is. Plenty of people are kind. I mean, a lot of people are honest, but courage is the one that's in short supply. And in a real fight against something evil, none of those other good qualities mean much without it. The fear of God once gave Americans the courage to stand up to tyrants, challenge injustice, and defend what's right. What happens when a nation loses that moral foundation is exactly what the progressive left has been fighting for all this time. Now, we're going to talk about this more on our live stream Friday night at 6 p.m. Eastern. So tell me what you think about this in the comments below. I want to hear from you guys. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.